Jean-Sebastien, thank you very much for joining us today. How are things in Montreal?
Very good, very good. Thank you, James.
2022 was a breakout year for critical elements, with the big news being the receiving of all the environmental permits from both the federal and provincial governments, as well as an impact and benefits agreement with the Cree Nation. And I want to touch on all of these achievements, beginning with the environmental permits. Maybe you can just tell us what were the exact permits you received and what do these permits allow you to do?
Yeah, mainly we received the global CA from the provincial government. We also received the approval by the federal minister on the environmental impact study, and we also received restoration plan approval by the Minister of Energy and Resources of Quebec. So mainly these umbrella permits allow us to move forward to apply for the mining lease and the land use lease that are key for putting the project into construction and operation. That is our target for 2023.
And how long did it take to receive these permits?
It take about 5 years to receive all these permits. We start 2015 with the initial baseline on the project, then applying the environmental impact study in 2017, going through several rounds of question and answer with a different level of government, going into the public hearing with the community. I will say we were the first one doing virtual public hearings, so that was a very big challenge. It took a long time to organize. Then having to answer more questions after the public hearing, getting the authorization from the federal in August 21, and the authorization by the provincial /COMEX, that is the entity that is a joint committee with the Cree and the provincial government. We received that approval in November 2022.
Don't you love the permitting process?
Well, that's a very long and, let's say, exhaustive process, but the good thing is that when you get approval in Quebec, it means that you really go very deep in details, and it really cover everything for the benefit of, let's say, that's environmental impact and social impact. So we're sure we cover all the aspect of the project. So that's a really rigorous process, but we went through it and we have it now.
And you did touch on this, but you did formalize an impact and benefits agreement with the Cree Nation. Maybe you can just tell us how long that took and what it entailed.
Yeah, that's very important for us. We start, let's say, the relation with the community right from the beginning of the project in 2010. It's really a collaboration agreement to work together to develop the project and make sure we, let's say, respect the culture, the social aspect of the community, and also all the mental aspect of the project. So in 2012, we already signed a pre-development agreement. Let's say with the local community, with East Main, the Cree government, and the Grand Council of Cree. Then in 2019, we formalized the impact and benefit agreement with the three level of government with the community. So that was very important for us and for the community, just to make it clear.
Another achievement in the past year was an updated feasibility study, which demonstrated very strong economics for the Rose project. And I just want to go over this so we can see how robust these economics are. But maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the net present value, the internal rate of return, and also the life of mine.
Yeah, the mine life of the project is 17 years. The NPV after tax, 8% discount is 1.9 billion US. With a 82% IRR. It's a very, very robust number. That, let's say, study is based on spotting price chemical grade of 2,500 for the first 5 years. Then we're using 1,560 for the ongoing years for chemical grade. So very conservative price deck for this study. And we're seeing a lot of upside with the actual price of spotting.
What was the CapEx?
The CapEx is 357 million US to build all the project. That include all the infrastructure, that include the mill, the concentrator, all the mining equipment, the substation, the office, the garage. So that's very up-to-date number also, as the study was filed in July 2022.
And so this is a very interesting point that you mentioned. The net present value was 1.9 billion, and yet the capex is only 357 million. It's not often you see the net present value being 5 times greater than the capex. Does that have to do with the spodumene price and the move it's had in the last few years?
Yeah, it's really linked to lithium price, spodumene price. If we look at the initial study we had in 2017, the ratio was more like 2-for-1 in terms of NPV and capex, but we've seen a significant increase in spodumene price over the last 2 years, and we're seeing also long-term price being pretty stable, at least up to 2030.
And maybe we should just touch on the spodumene price, because there is a big range and a big difference between the spot price and also the contracting price. Maybe you can give us a range of what that might be.
Yeah, we're seeing some, let's say, spot price right now on different platform where we set price up to $8,000 US per ton of spodumene. But in terms of contract price, what we're more seeing from different public sources, contract in the range of $5,000 to $6,000 per ton for chemical grade spodumene 6%.
And you mentioned the price that's used in the feasibility study is $2,500 per ton for the first 5 years.
Yes.
And as you already alluded to, it's trading significantly higher than that in both the spot and the contract market. But this project's going to throw off massive amounts of cash flow. And I know at this stage of the game, you can't really go into details about the cash flow, but maybe you can just touch on what it might be over the average life of the mine.
Yeah, I will say based on the study that we have in place now, we're seeing like projected EBITDA in the range of 400 million US. That's based on the, let's say, the price deck that we just mentioned for the study. We're seeing some upside, but I cannot really go more in detail on that question.
Another element which is very important to the mining of spodumene is impurities. And maybe you can just touch on the iron oxide content and how this impacts the economics of the Rose project.
Yeah, the iron content and the mica content are two important aspects in spodumene, mainly as we're doing flotation to produce concentrate. So the fact that we have very low amount of mica in the ore lead to very high recovery. We're not getting like a lot of losses when we extract the mica, as we start already with small amount of mica. And that also lead to high grade concentrate. In every test we've done in the past, we always produce material in the range of 6% grade and plus. For the, let's say, the study, we use 5.5% as it's a standard for the industry for chemical grade, but we're confident we can produce probably a bit higher than that. But really, iron oxide and mica are key for recovery. And also the fact that we have low iron oxide content in the ore lead to low iron content in the concentrate. So that gives us flexibility as we can sell part of the material in the tech grade industry. So mainly for the glass and ceramic specialized material producer.
Jean-Sebastien, as you mentioned, the spodumene which will be mined at the Rose project will be both technical grade and chemical grade. And I just want to create a visual so I can understand this better. But the technical grade is used for ceramic products like glass on my phone, for example, or the top on a stove. Is that correct?
Yes, exact.
And the chemical grade is what will go into a lithium-ion battery.
Exact. That's the one that will be used for conversion to produce lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide for batteries.
And maybe you can just elaborate on the economics associated with each grade.
Yeah, mainly let's say there's a link for chemical grade with carbonate price, including conversion cost. But for the technical grade spodumene, the link is really with carbonate price, as there's the material can be replaced by carbonate, but they need them to remix with silicate. The preferred material is really spodumene concentrate because all silicate are already there for their melting. So as the price is linked to lithium carbonate, you can do the math. You need 8 tons of spodumene for 1 ton of carbonate. Then you apply the lithium content in spodumene concentrate, so that will give you the price. So you can use 1 tons of carbon price, let's say divide by 8, and it will give you the price for tech grade spodumene.
Jean-Sebastien, I want to touch on exploration now, and maybe you can just tell us what happened in 2022 and what's going to happen in 2023 in terms of your exploration program.
Yes, in 2022, we've done surface exploration. I will say in general, that's like majority of the work that's been done. We identify new lithium showing west of Wabushi project, about 2.5 to 3 kilometers west, over a 2 kilometers trend. That's something that we plan to follow up in 2023. We also expand the trend on Lamar that been drilled in 2015 and 16 with surface sampling that expand the zone over 5 kilometers in terms of the trend with anomaly in tantalum, lithium, and cesium. The plan is to start the drilling, and I think drilling is probably about to start very soon on the Lamar project, where we plan to drill between 5,000 to 10,000 meters this winter with the objective to delineate initial resource on that project.
Jean-Sebastien, I want to move on now and discuss your balance sheet and your financial needs. Now that you have many of your permits in place, project financing will become of paramount importance. And so I want to discuss your various financing options, and maybe you can just take us through the various possibilities that you and your team are looking at.
Yeah, right now, just start by, let's say, where we stand right now. We just filed financial recently, so we're at about 30 million in the bank. That's sufficient to cover all the work we have to do for now. That include the owner team, the engineering work, all the detailed design that we're in order to move the project forward and ready for the construction. In parallel to that, we're working on, let's say, project financing and strategic process with our advisor, Cantor Federal. That's all public. The process, mainly, if we look at the project financing, if we assume a 50-50 debt equity ratio, we're looking for something around 200 million of debt, 200 million of equity. The nice thing is we kept all the optionality as we kept 100% of the material available for offtake. So for us, that was very important. This maybe is linked a bit to the fact that it took a long time for the permit, but even now we have 100% of offtake available. We're using that in our discussion with strategic, and the objective is to have a strategic partner that will, let's say, participate in project financing with a significant amount of equity in exchange of the offtake. That's mainly the focus of the process we're in now.
And when you talk about a strategic partner, could that be an OEM? Could it be a battery manufacturer, the provincial government?
There's a large variety of group that start from, let's say, cathode manufacturers, OEMs, battery manufacturers, can be also trading companies, mining companies. There's a large range of opportunity and interest.
And once again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but in terms of a timeline, when would you like to finalize this?
But in terms of timeline, the objective is to finalize something by the end of Q1, because we have the objective to start, let's say, the site preparation during the summer and start the construction. So if we want to achieve that objective, we're pushing and working hard to get that, let's say, strategic in place by the end of Q1.
I want to move on now and discuss your valuation. You have agreements with the provincial and federal governments, as we already discussed. You also have benefits agreement with the Cree Nation. You and your team have done many things to de-risk this project, but Critical Elements is still trading at a discount to many of its comps, and many of which are not nearly as advanced as Critical Elements. Why do you think that is?
But I will say there is maybe, let's say, some interrogation on how we will finance the project construction. I think this is one of the key next milestones for the company, and our objective is to reduce dilution as maximum for that project financing. That's where we're putting a lot of the effort. Also, I will say, as we were waiting the permit for a very long time, we've been maybe a bit quiet. But now we are reaching out as much as we can to make sure people are aware of Critical Elements and know the project and the company.
Jean-Sebastien, one other element I want to bring up, and that's infrastructure. That's very important to the creation of any mine. And given that this is in northern Quebec, maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, we're very lucky with the project. Yes, it's northern Quebec, but there was a lot of hydropower development in the past several years. So we have a road access that goes right to the project. There's a power line that goes right over the deposit. There's also an airport close to the project for the fly in, fly out for the worker. And we are also in discussion with the community in order to work with them for the worker camp for the mine life of the project. So very lucky. I don't know the amount of millions that we're saving in terms of infrastructure, but all these infrastructure are in place.
And you did touch on power, and we should bring up the fact that Quebec has the cheapest power or electricity in North America. Maybe you can just expand on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantage of that power. First, it's hydropower, so there is mainly no carbon footprint from that energy. And the price for power in Quebec is one of the lowest around the world. We're talking about 5 to 6 cents per kilowatt for the power.
Jean-Sebastien, as we wrap up, can you summarize what investors can expect in terms of news flow from critical elements throughout 2023?
Yeah, 2023 will be a big year for critical elements. You will see a continued improvement in the, let's say, construction and operation team by adding a full team for the construction. You will also see progress on project financing. That's one of our main goals to achieve by Q1, getting a strategic partner, investment off taking place in order to be able to start the construction in the summer. Also, you will see exploration on the different project that we own. We plan to restart drilling in January on the Lamar project, and also start the construction during 2023.
It sounds like 2023 is going to be a busy year indeed, and I want to thank you for making the time today. That was a great overview and a great update, and we look forward to hearing the news on the strategic investment in the coming months. Once again, thank you.
Thanks, James. It was a pleasure.